in light of what we actually celebrate. When it says, "Your nativity, O Christ our God, has caused the light of knowledge to rise upon the world. For by it, the worshippers of the stars were by a star instructed to worship you, the Sun of Righteousness, and to know you as Orient, as the daybreak, the sunrise from on high. Glory to you, O Lord." We understand, on the one hand, that in terms of the feast itself, we speak of the coming of the Magi, who were studiers of the stars. But if we dig even a little bit deeper, we know that the Magi did not worship the stars. And the Romans, who had long interactions with the people of Persia, where the Magi came from, would know full well that they did not worship the stars. But they venerated the stars, the Magi in particular. But we're actually displacing something from the Magi to the time of Constantine, when the hymn was written, because we know that this is the time that the feast began to be celebrated in the East. And what we are remembering, therefore, is not only the coming of the Magi to worship Christ, but the coming of some others who had worshipped the stars, or in particular the sun, who are now coming and instead worshiping Christ. For the last example, the final practice of the Roman Empire at large, before they worshipped Christ, was the cult of Sol Invictus, of the unconquered sun. It was a pagan religion that worshipped the sun. It was popular, first of all, with the army, and then with the aristocrats and the Senate and all those who were great in Rome. And then Constantine saw a vision, and he saw Christ reveal himself to him, and he converted, and he brought much of the empire with him. And in the days after this conversion, the church saw, to its surprise and to its joy, the multitudes, the high and the low of the entire society rushing into the church. And so this hymn, as they began to celebrate Christmas, was written. And you see, it speaks about stars, but about this one star in particular that had been worshipped, the sun itself. And if you look again, the hymn is very clear. For by your nativity, Christ our God, the light of understanding, of knowledge has dawned upon the world. Not the plain, ordinary sun of the physical world, but the light of understanding. And by your nativity, those who had worshipped the stars and even the sun that they called unconquered have been taught by a star instead to worship you, not the sun in the sky, but the very Sun of righteousness, ton ilion tis dikaiosines, and to know you, Christ our God, as the sunrise, not of each morning, but that dawns on our hearts today, as a new day of the Lord's salvation dawns upon us. So the hymn is a celebration not only of the coming of the Magi, but of the conversion of the entire world that had worshipped the sun to instead worshiping the Son of God, who is the Sun of righteousness. Now, as then, we find ourselves a small remnant a people set apart from the world in which we live. And we still worship the Son of Righteousness, although many voices call to us other paths that we could, or they think should, follow. But the truth of the Christian faith remains. The glory of Christ, our God, is undimmed. The light of knowledge that He shines upon us remains strong and bright, leading us in the paths of salvation, in the ways of understanding, to the fulfillment of all that we are and all that we are called and created to be. So as we reflect on this final Sunday, on the conversion of the world 16 centuries ago, and on how much things have changed, and on how much things have stayed the same, let us put our trust in God, who once called all the nations into the embrace of the church, who still calls them, and who will bring all of those outside in through His grace and power and love as it shines forth in our lives. The lesson, I think, need not be made clear. Christ shines through us in this new year that is to come. Let us be certain that we allow Him to shine brightly. Amen. Please stand, and we will continue the liturgy.